I ain't never been one for ghost stories. I'm a responder, trained, been through fires, wrecks, floods, things that make your skin crawl. But that night, out in Devil's Den after the tornado tore through, there's something I still can't explain. Not to this day. The baby survived, yeah, that's true. But someone was there before me, a woman, all in white. Walked away through the dust like she wasn't even real. And the ground, it was still rumbling. Name's Harold Dempsey. I'm 72 now. Born and raised in Newton County, deep in the Ozarks. Spent near 40 years working fire rescue out here. Mostly volunteer, sometimes part-time paid when the county could afford it. I retired back in '08, but I still keep the scanner on just in case. Old habits die hard. Out here, we don't have big city departments or fancy trucks. Most of us learned the job hands-on, pulling folks out of crumpled trucks, putting out grass fires with shovels, hauling water in a cattle tank. Folks look after each other. Ain't nobody coming from Little Rock fast enough to save your hide. You do it yourself. Now, I've seen a lot. Some good, some bad. Fires that burned homes to ash in under 10 minutes. Flash floods sweeping folks clean off their porches. Accidents on Route 7 that you wouldn't believe someone walked away from. And I never put much stock in ghost stories. We got plenty around here. You grow up hearing about Devil's Den, how the Cherokee called it cursed land, how folks vanish up there, how you see white figures moving through the fog after a storm. My granddad used to say, if the wind changes sudden, don't go into the holler. I used to roll my eyes, but that night in '92, I don't roll my eyes no more. The tornado came through just past 10 p.m. Sky had been boiling all day, air heavy like a wet towel. I remember saying to my wife, June, something ain't right tonight. We'd had warnings before, but this one hit different. Sirens didn't do no good. By the time they sounded, folks were already in their cellars or praying. It touched down near Combs and tore northeast, straight through Devil's Den. I got the call on the old radio. Structure collapse on a back road off Sunset Ridge. No address at first. Just a shouting voice saying they heard a baby crying. Now, that road, it's mostly cabins and trailers. Half abandoned. Not a place you'd expect a family to be living full-time. I jumped in the old rescue truck with Delmar, my partner back then. The whole drive up, we barely spoke. The power was out. Sky was dead black. We got near the site and had to stop. Trees down everywhere. Debris across the road like God just shook the earth and let it splatter. We hoofed the rest on foot with flashlights and gear. That place was flattened. Nothing but wood splinters, torn insulation, and twisted metal scattered like a giant hand had slapped it clean. But then, I heard it. A cry. Faint. Real faint. I told Delmar, hold up, you hear that? He nodded, already moving toward it. Now here's where things start getting strange. As we closed in, I saw something move through the rubble. At first I thought it was another responder. But they weren't wearing gear. It was a woman, I swear, dressed all in white. Like a nightgown. Or a hospital gown, maybe. She walked slow, not rushed. Just turned around one time to look toward the baby's cry, then walked off toward the tree line. Delmar didn't say nothing. He was focused on digging. I asked him later, you see her? He said, see who? Thought maybe I imagined it, maybe stress. But it didn't feel like no dream. We dug for what felt like an hour, hands bleeding, no backup, no fancy gear. And there he was, a baby boy, curled up under two beams like they'd formed a shelter just for him, crying but not hurt. Just dusty, eyes wide open, staring at me like he knew who I was. There was no adult body, no signs of anyone else, just that baby. Here's the kicker. House was registered to a vacation rental. Wasn't supposed to be anyone there, and yet that baby had clean clothes. Bottle nearby, blanket folded, like someone had been taking care of him, right up until the storm hit. I never got answers. Sheriff ran the names. Nothing came up. No missing persons, no woman in white, no birth record filed for a baby born near that time. County filed it under storm-related miracle. But me, I don't call it a miracle. I call it something else. I don't tell this story often. Folks round here either laugh it off or they get real quiet, 'cause Devil's Den's got a reputation. Cherokee said the wind there carries voices. Hunters say they've seen women walk in the ridge after dark, then vanish. I never believed it. But that night, that baby, and that woman in white, I still see her sometimes. In dreams mostly, and always walking away. Not running, not scared, just walking, like her job was done. Back in '92, life out here was simple, hard, but simple. I was 39. Had 3 kids still in the house. June was working part-time at the pharmacy in Jasper. I was pulling shifts for the volunteer fire crew, plus working maintenance over at the high school when the money got tight. You don't do this job for money. You do it 'cause someone's got to show up. We didn't have GPS or cell phones. We had a radio and a map with circles drawn on it in red ink. If a storm came through, or a tractor flipped, or someone's chimney caught fire, you went. Didn't matter the hour. We kept our gear in the back of our trucks, boots by the door, coats in the barn. I remember the week before that tornado hit, the air had this smell to it. Sweet, almost like honeysuckle, but it wasn't the season. I mentioned it to Delmar. He said, "You're smelling the ground heat. Storm's brewing." That wasn't unusual. Folks out here, we can feel it in our knees when something's coming. What was strange was the wind. It'd go dead still around noon, then kick up hard come sundown. You'd see the trees bending all one way, even when the sky was blue. Birds quieted down. Deer didn't move. Then there was this dog, a stray mutt that'd hang around the firehouse. Sweet old thing. Always slept near the fuel tanks. But that week he wouldn't come near the building, just stood on the gravel lot, looking toward the ridge. Growling. We joked about it. Said maybe he saw one of them ridge walkers folks like to talk about. See, every town's got its stories. Here in the Ozarks, folks whisper about the Devil's Den. Now it ain't just a name to scare tourists. That land's always been a little off. Cherokee said spirits travel through it. Used to be burial grounds, they say. There's a tale from way back about a woman in white who shows up just before someone dies. Doesn't speak, doesn't touch nothing, just stands still watching. Some folks call her an omen. Others say she's an angel. I never believed it. Hell, I used to laugh when June brought it up. But that week, I started remembering all those stories my granddad told when I was a boy. About the miners who went missing near the ridge. The ranger who found boot prints that stopped clean in the mud. I ain't saying I believed it then, but it sat heavier in the back of my mind than usual. The night of the storm, I'd just finished patching a hole in the school's roof. Sky was that yellow-gray color, like an old bruise. June called from town, said sirens went off near Fayetteville. I drove home with both hands tight on the wheel. Radio was static, full of distant voices that didn't make sense, like someone was talking backwards. That part, I still don't like thinking about. We bunkered down soon as I got home. Brought the kids into the crawlspace, wrapped up tight. Then came the call. Our department had a station in Boxley. One of the younger guys, Travis, was out on patrol when the storm hit. He said he saw the funnel touchdown near Devil's Den. Screamed into the radio. "It's ripping the ridge in half. Structure's down. I think I heard a baby crying." Then it cut out. That ain't normal. Radios don't just cut cold. Me and Delmar were the only ones close enough to head that way. I kissed June, told her I'd be back in a couple hours. She didn't say nothing, just looked at me with that face. The kind where a wife knows something bad's coming but won't say it out loud. I drove like hell. Trees down everywhere. Had to ditch the truck 2 miles out and walk the rest. That road was quiet. No crickets, no owls, just wind. Not the kind that whistles or howls, This wind just pressed on your skin like it was breathing on you. Delmar said, "You feel that?" I nodded. Didn't like speaking out there. Devil's Den was pitch black, except for flashes of heat lightning far off. When we reached the site, the smell hit first. Wet earth, busted wood, insulation, and something else. I can't describe it. Like metal, but not blood. Cold, electric. The house, if you could call it that, Mindy, was gone. Just one bathtub sticking out of the dirt. And that's when I heard the cry. Like I said, you don't forget a baby's cry in the dark. Makes your stomach twist. And right before I moved toward it, I saw her. Just a shape at first. Tall, thin, all white. She stood real still, like she'd been watching. I thought maybe it was shock, or my eyes playing tricks, but Delmar didn't see her, or said he didn't. I ain't told many folks this, but when we got closer to the wreckage, I found footprints, bare feet, small, light in the mud. But they led nowhere. They just stopped. Wind kicked up again, that same dead wind. And I thought, maybe the old stories ain't so far off. Maybe folks see things in Devil's Den for a reason. The night it happened, I remember exactly where I was sitting at the kitchen table, polishing my boots. June had made stew. Kids were already down for the night. And I had the scanner on, just habit by then. Forecast had been hollering about possible funnels, but we'd heard that before. Out here, storms are part of life. You don't panic, you prepare. But around 9:30, things turned. The wind shifted. You could hear it in the trees, like they was groaning. Whole house creaked. Then came the static. Not the normal kind. It was like someone was breathing through the damn radio. I leaned in close, turned the knob slow. And then, clear as day, came Travis's voice. "I got a collapse. I got a structure down near Devil's Den. I hear a baby." Then nothing. Dead silence. I waited, hoped maybe he'd cut back in, but something in my gut said no. I grabbed my gear, told June I'd be back by midnight. She just nodded. Didn't argue, didn't ask. She looked at me like she already knew. Met up with Delmar near the old mill. He was pale as chalk. Said he felt dizzy the second he stepped out of the truck. We drove out toward the site, but halfway up Ridge Road, the way was blocked. Trees down, wires dangling, wind still moving. You could hear branches snapping off like toothpicks in the dark. We had to go the rest on foot. Took the gear bags and flashlights. No backup, just two old boys walking into the teeth of it. Now, Devil's Den at night. That's a place you don't wander without reason. Not just 'cause of the land, steep drops, hidden creeks. But folks say the ridge holds on to things. Sound don't travel right. Light don't sit the way it should. And I swear, that night, the deeper we went, the quieter it got. No frogs, no owls, just wind, moving like a whisper through dead trees. We come over the last rise, and there it was, or what was left of it. Looked like a trailer home had been peeled open. Wood everywhere, insulation floating through the air like snow. You could still smell the storm. Wet metal, busted pine, a hint of gas. We started shouting, "Fire rescue. Anybody hear us?" That's when I heard it. A baby, not crying loud, more like whimpering. Like he'd already been crying so long he ran out of breath. My chest tightened. We followed the sound, crawling over boards, brushing off nails. And right as we rounded what looked like a partial wall frame, I saw her. Just for a second. A figure. Tall, still, in white. She was standing maybe 30 feet away, near the edge of the wreckage. No flashlight, no sound. Just watching. I froze, thought maybe I was seeing things. I looked back at Delmar, asked, "You see that?" He said, "See what?" And when I looked again, she was gone. Nothing but darkness and wind. I didn't say more. We had a baby to find. Got down on our knees, pulled debris away with our hands. I found the child tucked under a slab of sheet metal, wedged between two floor beams. Not a scratch on him, just laying there, eyes wide open, watching me. He didn't cry when I lifted him, didn't flinch, just stared. That moment, I don't know how to explain it, felt like he'd been waiting for me. And here's the part that stuck with me all these years. There was a blanket tucked around him, clean, folded neat, and next to him, a bottle, still warm. I checked for other bodies. Nothing. No mother, no father, no signs of blood. Just busted wood, a baby, and footprints. Yeah, bare feet. Small, led out of the rubble, then stopped. No drag marks, no boot prints. Just like someone stepped into the dark and vanished. I didn't say much to Delmar. We got the kid to safety. I kept thinking, maybe someone got out before we arrived. Maybe the woman I saw was in shock. But the report said no one was registered to that trailer. No name, no owner. Place wasn't even supposed to be occupied. And yet, that baby was fed, warm. Someone had cared for him. And whoever, or whatever, that figure was, they left without a trace. By the time we reached the wreckage, I could barely hear the wind anymore. Not 'cause it had stopped. It hadn't. It was still moving around us, low and steady, like a hum in the ground. But everything else was dead quiet. Not even our boots made sound over the boards. It was like the whole world was holding its breath. I don't scare easy. Never did. But I'll be honest with you. There was something about that place that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Delmar started sifting through the debris near what looked like the center of the structure. I took a few steps toward the opposite end, where the wall had collapsed onto itself. That's when I saw that glint, a little silver rattle sticking out from under a board. I moved fast, dropped to my knees, started pulling stuff away. Then I heard it again. The cry. Not loud, not panicked, just soft, like a breath. I shouted to Delmar, "Here, over here!" He came quick, and we worked side by side, moving pieces of wall, insulation, metal. I remember my fingers bleeding. Splinters, nails, torn gloves. Didn't care. I just knew there was a child under there, and I had to get him out. We uncovered a small cavity. 2 floor joists had fallen in a V shape, holding up a piece of roof just enough to make a little pocket, and there he was. Tiny. Couldn't have been more than 8, maybe 10 months old. Curled up like he was sleeping. And right next to him, that bottle. Still warm. The blanket wasn't dirty, that's what stopped me. It was tucked around him, neat as you'd lay it in a crib. No dust. No soot. No blood. You ever seen something that makes your stomach drop, even though it looks fine? That's what it felt like. I looked around. No woman. No adult body. Just more ruin. Then I caught a smell. Not the usual storm stench. This was sweet. Too sweet. Like burnt lilacs. I asked Delmar, "You smell that?" He shook his head. Said he didn't smell nothing. That's when I remembered what my granddad used to say about the white lady. Folks claim she appeared just before someone died, or right after someone was saved, always leaving behind that strange smell. I didn't believe it, not really, but I'm telling you, in that moment, I started to wonder. I cradled the boy, careful not to jostle him too much. He didn't cry. Just looked up at me with these big, glassy eyes. Not scared, not confused, just calm, like he'd been waiting on me. Delmar radioed for medevac, but we were too deep in. So we walked. Through broken trees and mud, back down the ridge, and halfway through, I stopped. 'Cause I saw something. On the edge of the trail, a set of footprints, bare, small. They started in the mud, then just stopped. I bent down, touched the edge of one. It wasn't dry, wasn't old, it was fresh. But no prints leading in, no prints leading out. Just 3 perfect steps, and gone. I didn't say nothing to Delmar. Didn't have to. He looked at me and said, "You're thinking what I'm thinking?" I just nodded. We never talked about it again. That boy got airlifted to Fayetteville. Doctors said he was dehydrated but stable. The story hit the local news. Baby survives tornado, they called it. Nobody asked who was taking care of him. Nobody mentioned the trailer had no registered tenant, no ID, no crib, no clothes. Just a baby, and a bottle, and a woman in white that no one could prove was ever there. I filed my report, left out the footprints, left out the smell, said we found the boy alive. That was enough. But between you and me, I still see her. Sometimes when I close my eyes at night, I see that figure on the ridge, walking away, like her job was done, like she knew I'd be there. You know, I've pulled folks out of wrecks that made seasoned responders lose their lunch. I've seen people scream, go into shock, pass out cold from pain. But I never saw a look like that baby gave me. Not before, not since. When I first laid hands on him, he didn't flinch, didn't cry, didn't even blink, just looked me dead in the eyes, and I swear. For a second there, I felt like I wasn't the one rescuing him. Felt like I was the one being seen. I know that sounds strange. Hell, it feels strange to say it out loud. But I ain't talking about no supernatural thing. Just something about the way his eyes fixed on mine. Like he knew me. Like he'd been waiting on me. And not in the way babies just stare at faces. This was different. His eyes weren't wandering. They were locked in. There was no fear, no panic. Like he understood, even at that age, that he'd made it. That he was safe. I remember I froze for just a beat. Not from shock. I've been doing this job too long for that. It was like I was trying to figure out why this kid wasn't acting like a kid. And in that silence, I heard something I still don't talk about much. Might have been the wind, might have been my mind, but I swear I heard a voice, real, soft, right next to my ear. It said, plain as day, "He's not yours to lose." I looked around. Delmar was still 20 feet off, digging through debris. Nobody else there. I didn't tell him. What was I going to say? "Hey, Delmar, I think a ghost just whispered at me." He'd have laughed, or worse, looked at me like I needed rest. So I kept it to myself, but it stayed with me. That phrase, "He's not yours to lose." The way it was said, not mean, not angry, just real, clear, like a statement of fact. I picked the boy up slow, supporting his head. He was warm, his skin was clean, not a scratch, not a bruise, and that bottle still had warmth in it. Now you tell me how that makes sense. We checked that trailer front to back, no bodies, no signs of someone fleeing, no muddy tracks, no purse, no keys, nothing. And yet, that child was fed, wrapped up, looked after. I can't explain it, but I know what I saw. I saw a baby look at me like I was expected. I saw footprints that didn't go nowhere. I saw a woman in white just standing in the edge of the wreckage, then disappearing like fog. When we finally got to the extraction point, I didn't want to hand him off. Felt wrong somehow. Not because I didn't trust the medics, but because I'd carried him through something that didn't add up. One of the EMTs took him, checked his vitals, gave me a look. He said, "You sure he was under there the whole time?" I said, "What you mean?" He said, "His temp's too normal, his BP's steady. He don't look like a kid that just survived a damn tornado." I just nodded. Didn't have the energy to say more. They put him in the rig and drove off. And I just stood there. Hands shaking, blood dried on my knuckles, shirt soaked through. Delmar patted my shoulder and said, "You did good, Harold." I didn't answer. Because I wasn't sure what I'd just done. That baby. That look. That voice. I'd saved people before. But this time, it didn't feel like I was the hero. Felt more like I was part of something already decided. You ever get that feeling? Like you walked into the middle of something that was already unfolding? Like maybe someone or something made sure you were in the right place at the right time. I ain't saying I believe in ghosts. I still don't, but I'd be lying if I said I don't think about that look. That baby never took his eyes off me, not once, and I never forgot it. You know, I thought once the boy was safe, once he was out of those woods and in a warm bed somewhere, that'd be the end of it. That I'd go home, wash the blood off my hands, kiss my wife, and sleep it off. But it didn't go like that. That night followed me. Not in the way car wrecks or fires do, where the sounds haunt you or you wake up hearing screams. This was different. It was quiet. Too quiet. Like something had been left unfinished. First thing that stuck with me, they never found who that baby belonged to. Not a name. Not a relative. They put out word statewide. Even ran a segment on Channel 5. Miracle baby found after Ozark tornado. But no one came forward. Not one call. The county eventually classified him under state care. I don't know what name they gave him. I tried to follow up, called down to the hospital a couple times, but they stopped taking my questions, said it was confidential. And I get that. But it never sat right. I remember talking to the sheriff a few days after, asked him if there was any sign someone might have escaped the wreckage before we arrived. He said, "No tire tracks, no footprints, no signs of anyone walking out of there alive." Then he gave me this look, like he wanted to say more, but didn't. That's the thing with small towns. Folks know when to shut up. Delmar never brought it up again, not once. And that man, we'd seen it all together. Fires, floods, suicides. But this one, he kept it locked up. I asked him once, maybe 6 months later while we were patching up the firehouse roof. I said, "You ever think about that baby?" He said, "Nope." And that was that. But I did. I thought about it damn near every day. I'd see babies at the grocery store, hear 'em cry, and my stomach would tighten. I'd see white laundry blowing in the wind and catch myself freezing up, thinking I saw her. And the dreams. They weren't nightmares exactly, just quiet. I'd be standing on that ridge again, the wreckage at my feet, wind blowing but no sound. And I'd see her, always the same. Long white dress, hair blowing back but face never clear. Just standing there, looking past me, then walking off, always away. I tried talking to June about it once. She listened. God bless her. She always did. But even she said, "Maybe you're just mixing stress with all them stories your daddy told." And yeah, maybe she's right. But here's what keeps me up at night. I never told her about the voice, about what I heard in that moment when I lifted that baby. He's not yours to lose. What does that mean? Why would I hear that? I've asked myself 100 times. You do this kind of work long enough, you learn to live with unanswered questions. Fires start with no cause. People disappear. Nature don't always make sense. But this one lodged itself deep. Not because I was scared, but because I still don't know what part I played in all of it. It felt like I walked into something older than me. Older than the trailer, the baby, the ridge. Like I was a piece in something already set in motion. And I don't like that feeling. I'm a practical man. I like cause and effect. I like calling things what they are. But this had no clear start, and no end I could see. The baby was real. I held him. The trailer was real. I dug through it. The smell, the footprints, the bottle, all real. And her. I know what I saw, but I don't know what she was. Maybe just a woman in shock, walking off before we got close. Maybe someone looking for help and got lost. Or maybe the old stories ain't just stories. Maybe the Cherokee were right about that land, that it holds things, and releases them when it wants. I still don't believe in ghosts, but I do believe in questions that don't have answers. And I believe that baby was meant to be found. By me. For reasons I may never understand. It's been over 30 years now. And not a week's gone by that I don't think about that night. Not always the same way. Sometimes it just pops into my head when I'm putting on my boots or when I see the sky get that same color before a storm. Other times, it hits me hard. Quiet evenings mostly. After the grandkids go home and the coffee's gone cold. I'll be sitting out on the porch and I'll hear wind moving through the trees just like it did that night. And I'll remember it all. The smell, the silence, the way that baby looked at me and her, that woman in white. For a long time I tried to push it down, told myself I was tired, overworked. Maybe I was seeing things. But the way it all lined up, the footprints, the bottle, the whisper, it just never added up to nothing that made sense. And that's what bothers me most. Not that I was scared, not that I didn't understand, but that I still don't. I've always been a straight shooter. Don't like fluff, don't care for exaggeration. You ask me if I believe in ghosts, I'll say no. But ask me if I believe something strange happened up in Devil's Den that night. I'll tell you yes, without blinking, because I was there. And some things, you don't need to explain to know they're real. I never told the full story until now. Not to my wife, not to my kids. Part of me was scared they'd look at me different, think I'd lost a step. But it ain't about fear anymore. It's about closure, I guess. When you carry something that long, it starts to shape how you see the world. I stopped doubting people when they told me they'd seen things. I started listening closer when someone said, "You ever hear that story about the ridge?" I don't nod. I don't dismiss it. I just say, go on. Because even if it ain't the same story, it's coming from that same place. That place where logic can't reach. Some folks said the baby was a miracle. Others joked it was aliens or the government running secret projects. You hear all kinds of garbage when something don't fit the mold. But me? I just think the world's bigger than we like to admit. There's parts of it we don't see. Places where things overlap. Past and present, seen and unseen. And every now and then, we step into one of those cracks. Not on purpose. Not 'cause we're special, just 'cause we were the ones close enough when the line thinned. That's what Devil's Den felt like that night, like the air had pulled back a curtain, just for a minute. And I saw something I wasn't supposed to see. A woman who walked away through solid wreckage like it was grass. A voice that came from nowhere, telling me the boy wasn't mine to lose. A baby, untouched by a storm that killed grown men. And the worst part, I don't think I was supposed to remember it. But I do. Clear as yesterday. Sometimes I wonder where that boy ended up. If he's growing up strong. If he ever wonders where he came from. If he dreams of wind and rubble like I do. I'll never know. That part wasn't mine to keep. All I have is that look, the weight of it, and the memory of standing in the middle of the wreckage. Just me, a child, and a silence that felt older than the trees. I used to want answers. Now I just want peace. But I ain't sure you ever fully get over something you can't explain. If you made it this far listening to an old man talk, well, thank you. I ain't much for talking on camera. But I figured if I didn't say this now, maybe I never would. 'Cause this thing, this one call, this one night, it stayed with me in a way nothing else ever has. And I ain't saying it to scare anyone. I'm saying it because maybe, just maybe, someone out there's got a story like mine. Something you saw once. Something you can't quite explain. Maybe you told yourself it was nothing. Maybe other folks laughed. Maybe you just kept quiet. I get that. I did the same. But some things, they don't stay buried. They sit right behind your eyes. And they wait. Now I ain't trying to convince nobody of nothing. Like I said, I don't believe in ghosts. Not the kind that go bump in the night anyway. But I do believe there's more to this world than what we can grab with both hands. And I believe there are places, old places, where that more gets a little closer. Devil's Den is one of those places. You can laugh, that's all right. I would have too years ago. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. And I know that little boy, a baby barely big enough to sit up, survived something no adult could have walked away from. And someone, or something, made sure he did. I was just the hands that pulled him out. So if you're watching this, and you've got something you've never said out loud, a moment that never made sense, a feeling you can't explain, maybe this is your sign to tell it. Even if no one ever believes you, maybe we ain't meant to solve every mystery. Maybe just speaking it out loud is enough. I don't need closure anymore. But I do think about that baby, about where he is now, if he ever feels watched over. If you're out there, son, if by some wild chance you're watching this, just know this: you were loved, even before we knew your name. And if you ever felt like someone was walking just behind you, maybe they were. Maybe some things just don't leave.